We have in the House the Justice of Peace, who we had value towards our guest, the Speaker of just said unto us. This permits me to bring to the seat in front our President to coordinate the questions, commentaries from the dignitaries seated here. Our President, sir, you are welcome.
Distinguished audience, that comprises our past presidents, our incoming president. You have not greeted me today. I thought you would come and greet me. I didn't see when you passed. Our colleagues, you see, when this institution came on board, we started peace day one, peace day two. And I'm now therefore not surprised that at the exit, we are still preaching peace. It's been a very wonderful lecture, but I believe we may have one or two questions, or one or two speeches to make. Let's make it very short time to get in these details so that we can bring this ceremony to a close. You know, we have to maintain. Sometimes we begin to wonder whether this COVID has some spiritual connotation. I don't know. Because with the way I see our people go about, not wearing face masks, and we're not dropping dead on the streets. Yet the white man who is doing all this are dying. Anyway, that's the story for another day. So let's have the opinion of Christians if you have anything. Yes. The Surveyor General of the Federation, in my usual manner, I like to give numbers so that somebody speaks. That's when you want to talk yourself. So let us make up our. Four, five. I've called you now. 1, 2, you are great. 4, 5, and 6, 7. We're going to make only 7 comments.
I want to start by thanking the guest lecturer for that very interesting and well-packaged lecture. Actually, I actually look at it as a sermon. While she was delivering the lecture, something was running in my mind. There's this saying that if you want peace, you prepare for war. I want to hear your response to that. Of course, I also know that it is only in an environment of peace that we make progress. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. As a marriage counselor, I advise couples who have been fighting a lot, and what I say to them, if you're going to fight, fight to make it work. So yes, we need to go to war to make things work in this country. If you ask me to prepare for peace, to go to war, we go to war to battle the corruption. We go to war to battle the bigotry on all the divides, in every culture, in every faith. And that's when I believe we can take up arms to fight for justice, peace, law and order, and the rule of law. Thank you, sir.
That is invariably also an advice to me, so I will change my strategy. Let's hear our other professor.
Thank you very much, President and the House. I want to thank the lecturer. This is November of this year, and I think this is the most beautiful and most thought-provoking and put it again, something that actually adds value lecture that I've had this year. I want to say that I'm very, very much impressed. Maybe because you saw the list of lecturers and they intimidated you. That is why you brought out your best. I want to assure you that your best is indeed extremely good. Excellent. When you started, I had a fear because of the way the lecture went in the very first few minutes. And my fear was that something was going to be neglected. The attributes or those things, those factors that bring lack of peace. But you did justice again, because right at the middle, you introduced those things, those elements that we have to watch out for, which, when introduced, are the things that cause peace. And I want to mention them to be injustice, lawlessness, that is, lack of the rule of law, lack of respect, mistrust, and more importantly, lack of truth, when we are unable to be truthful to one another. Peace suffers. I agree that what Nigeria needs most, and indeed the world, because Nigeria is just a microorganism of what is going on in other parts of the world. What we need most in this world and in Nigeria today is bridge building. We must reach across the aisle, to let people know that they are wanted, they are loved, and that we are all human beings, and really the fault cannot be on one side alone. So I thank you again, and I just needed to end by saying that Nigerians must watch out. When we preach peace, we must know that peace without justice, peace without righteousness, peace without those elements of things that go along with peace, without them, if you seek them, maybe just peace on a time bomb, willing to explode any moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for that contribution. We go to the next row.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam. My name is Aurelia Akene. To start with, actually I wanted to ask in line with what our Surveyor General asked, so I will drop that one. On the other side, no questions to ask. What our father said, I think is the best lecture I've ever come across for this 2020. But the area I want us to dwell on more seriously is what I described based on the lecture as the blind followers concept. And that is the major problem we have in this country. Now, we'll look deeper to see how we're going to stop these blind followers concepts. Because the blind followers
were made possible by the people in the upper deck. And in the upper deck too, we have different categories in the upper deck. Just like you described us as elites and people in the upper deck, but there are people in the upper deck, not by dint of hard work, but by societal provisions. On that note, I've actually followed up on that in different fora. Like, you mentioned something that I always use as my closing remark on anything I write. That is the quotation from Edmund Burke, and it's very important. So what I want you to highlight to us briefly is how we can overcome the issue of the blind followers and to equally correlate with your cooking from there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry? The tomato example. Jollof with Fanta and stones, yeah. Thank you for your question. I think, like I said, this issue to do with personal accountability, the ability to look in the mirror and see the hypocrisy in ourselves. What are we saying at home? Sometimes sentiments start from the home. And I think that is really the foundation for any society. I think of the upbringing I had, and throughout my life, I always saw my parents as bridge builders. Where we live in Niger State, it has been a very peaceful state. I've been privileged enough to grow up in an organization that has partnered with the Christian groups, the Catholic Archdiocese. We've organized interfaith dialogue. So growing up, having seen it modeled by my parents, it was almost impossible for me to have any biases, any bigotry. Why? Because I knew what Christianity looked like, and I knew what real Christianity looked like, but I also know what fake Islam looks like. So the ability to be truthful, honest, and say, even in my faith, we do have charlatans, we have fake imams. We have to be very truthful. That's why I said, let's start by looking in the mirror. When you see societies that are working, that are thriving, there's a lot of accountability. You hold people in office accountable. You do not place them in positions and allow them to do as they please. You have to call them to order. Unfortunately, that our sit-down look approach is what causes bigger problems, because they feel they can do as they please and get away with it. Even if you call the departments that are in charge of investigating and prosecuting, you find there's an easy way out, unlike those who maybe commit even petty theft in a shop. They may spend more time in jail than those who are looting the millions and billions, again, due to the powers we hold and the fact that we are in the upper deck. So I would say the first is personal accountability. If we fix ourselves, if everybody in this room arranges themselves and makes sure they are not part of the problem, I believe that's the first step. There is a huge problem, but there's a quick story I will tell you of the story of the starfish. And this man was walking on the beach early one morning. Then he saw another man in the near distance that kept bending up, standing down, standing up, bending up, standing down. And then he got closer, and the sun was rising. He realized he had to be careful with where he was treading, because there were thousands of starfish that had been washed ashore the night before. So as he got closer to see what this man was doing, the man was picking up starfish and throwing it back in the ocean. And he looked at the thousands of starfish and he said, "Sir, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm saving starfish." He said, "But there are thousands of them. You can't possibly make a difference." And he bent down, picked up a starfish, threw it in the ocean, and he said, "But I made a difference to that one." So our problem is massive. And which angle will you come from? But everybody has a circle of influence. There is something as an individual, we can start with ourselves and our immediate environment. Everybody is in office. Most people in this room belong to a profession. And so if you start tackling it from just there, it will have a domino effect. Because at least there are institutions that the moment you mention the name, something comes to mind. If you say the Nigerian army, or Nigerian police, some image is conjured up in your mind. So what happens, what is conjured up in your mind when you say quantity surveyors? Something comes to mind. And if we know we are ambassadors of our profession, of our faith, of our religions, of our culture, our tribe, our gender, and we hold ourselves accountable and make sure everybody around us is held accountable. Because one thing I always say, it's not good enough to be good alone. If people around you are doing something wrong and you allow and you ignore, then you also are wrong. So that is, I believe, the mindset we need to have. Start with our circle of influence, beginning with ourselves. Thank you, sir.
I know some of the sorry, I cannot ask that question because the brother from the Niger Delta, and I guess you know why you're asking the issue about blind followership, about the terrible things that are taking place in the Niger Delta. But let me assure you that it's a very complex issue. I'm sorry I'm not giving another lecture, but I'm also trying to contribute. The issue about blind followership is very complex. Complex in the sense that each one of us has his own idiosyncrasies in life. Those idiosyncrasies may be political, may be religious, may be ethnic, and I think it is only an enlightenment of the soul that makes the human being see reason beyond doubt and knows that this guy, whether he's from my tribe, I go to the same mosque with him, we are the same church, begin to ask questions. So let us ask for illumination. I know some people don't like to hear that word, but we must be illumined to understand knowledge. Can we have the next question, please?
My name is Charity Michael. I feel very proud because of you, because you have done justice to the topic of the day, and I'm sure every woman here in the hall feels proud too. Thank you very much. My question is, how do you promote peace and tolerance in Nigeria in the face of mediocrity and nepotism?
Well, in the face of tolerance and mediocrity, I wonder if there's any society you don't have any mediocrity. Maybe exalted to the high end. It then depends upon the individual. See, you can tolerate and tolerate and tolerate without boundaries. You quoted the Holy Bible. How many times did the Master say you must forgive one another? When you want to start problems with someone, always give the reaction of that person. Somebody has offended you, you may want to retaliate. But if you retaliate and you don't kill that person, can you imagine what next the person will do when next it comes? So if you have this chain of reaction in your mind, action and reaction are equal and opposite, you will be a shock absorber. People will do things to you. That is the level of your understanding of life. Are we not all passengers on this earth called spaceship that is traveling through space? For us, we're in a spaceship here on earth. Whether we like it or not, mankind has one destiny, and that destiny is what the religion tells us. But until we die, never shall we find out that. We are told that the nearest star to us is Alpha Centauri, and that if we take the distance between the sun and the Earth, 93 million miles, to be equivalent to 1 centimeter, Alpha Centauri is 1.7 kilometers away. Of recent, we have found so many other planets that are habitable. Me, even as a child, I began to think, what's man's role here on Earth? Is it possible that when we leave this place is a place for training, that we can leave this place and go to somewhere else? The moment you are imbibed with nature, and you know life, as you should be understood, that this soul in us, when we die, it is either to be judged
you go to heaven, you go to earth, but the soul itself does not die. It lives. I've read about an experiment where somebody was just about to die. He was weighed. And when he died, they weighed him again, and there was a little fraction of change in the weight. If you read this book, what's the name of this? It has to do with Dan Brown's novel. I think The Key or something like that. These things are there. What am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that we must not have a limit to how much elasticity we will exercise when people offend us, so that society can keep going. That is my own personal view, and that is what I practice. Question number 4.
Number 5.
Number 5?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Hajiya. From the comments made by other members of the audience here, I've had a lot of what I should have asked. But I wish to commend you because seeing some of your presentations in your talk show NTA, your presentations in our live TV, and your teachings about marriage. I see that the presentation today is excellent, and our major problem is for us to apply the method of charity begins at home. If we teach and we have peace in Nigeria, and from homes we don't have peace, we cannot solve our problems. And charity begins at home, and the way things are in Nigeria, every leader has a wife or a husband. From home, wives can advise, because a wife should know about 80% of what the husband does. And the husband should know about 60 or 70% of what the wife does. And it's our duty, when we want to have peace and tolerance, for us to teach ourselves before going out. If you hold ourselves, if you know your spouse is doing what is wrong, and you'll be able to educate your spouse, what you are doing is not proper, don't continue with this. The conflicts will reduce. The peace and tolerance will start from there. But if we know that our spouses are corrupt, and we allow them because we need the fund, money is very important for all of us, there's no way we can solve this problem. But in addition, I commend you for the work well done. Thank you, ma'am.
I think this one does not require any it's your contribution. Is that the last question, or there was still somebody else? Okay.
President, both past presidents and present president and incoming president, my colleagues and our guests. My name is Oyezo Mohammed. Everybody that has spoken after our guest speaker said something, but I will still add mine. Madam, you did very, very well. You know that this elder statesman in my town, you always say, what can a woman do? I wish she's here so that she will see what a woman can do. To be talked about. You mentioned tolerance, managing one another. You know, I'm Igbo. Igbos will always believe, is it because I'm tolerating you? Is it because I'm accommodating you? You know, they feel they are better intellectually. That brings conflict and intolerance. And then the Northerners, I might be wrong, most times they believe that they are the head, they will always lead, and then this and that. As well, because of that, there's always conflict. And then to the West, of course, they believe that they are the learned tribe of Nigeria. So all these differences are what at times bring intolerance and bring conflict between one another. When I was in the university. I bought Quran for myself. Thank you so much. You preached like a Christian because you quoted more Bible, I think, than the Quran. And you only preached like an imam because you only quoted Quran so much. I bought Quran, I read it, and then I went to Lemu campus, University of Nigeria. Almost 99% Christians, as I then. Everybody that comes to my room and see a Quran, say, what have you done with Quran? As at 1981, that is, it's not even today that the gap is widening. That's what I have done with Quran. Why are you doing that? You can ask the random. Thank you, madam, for coming. My question is, if reading Quran and Bible, do you think it can make us more peaceful? Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful question. Like I said, we have scriptures on the tips of our tongues, and we wear our faith like a uniform. We put it on and take it off when it's convenient. The problem is the input does not produce the right output. That's why I quote again, if all Muslims would be more like Muhammad, may God be pleased with him. And if all Christians would be more like Jesus, may God be pleased with him, we wouldn't be having these problems. Where there is a problem is for Muslims, we have not become the walking Quran, because the message in our book is of peaceful coexistence, of bridging gaps, of respecting other faiths. In our religion, if a non-Muslim, not even a Christian, even if it is a non-believer, puts his hands up to God and just says, help me because of the injustice of a Muslim, that person could go to hell. It is that bad. So for us, we know we have a merciful God, and we know that we have one God. The God that created Christians, Jews, is the same God that created us. We are all the children of God. And if we would only translate the beautiful scriptures of our faith that have more in common, like I said, than what many would want us to believe, turn them into action, we would not be having this problem. So reading the book doesn't make us a good person. Because I'm a Nupe doesn't make me a good person. Because I'm a woman doesn't make me. But do I exemplify and stand out and represent as an ambassador my faith, my gender, my tribe, my region that I come from? I think that is really where we will see a change, is turning the books into reality, bringing it to life. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Put your hands together for that explanation. Zoma, I would also like to add a comment. You see, I came into this country about 73 years ago. And growing up, I have lived in many parts of this country. There was peace those days. We knew we came from different ethnic groups. Like I grew up in Port Harcourt, mostly, and Aba. The broken language was what we all spoke. Where we came from was very, very insignificant. The resources those days, not that people were not looting and doing things, it was not at this level. Even if you are doing something wrong, you are hiding. But we have come to a stage in our country where, those days, if policemen were to take bribes, how much was it? After any, 10 cup, one shilling. They will hide. But openly now, police are taking money and giving change to passengers. It's with impunity. Everybody is behaving in a manner of impunity. That is the problem. What we require in Nigeria, not from the tribes that will come, it is training, enlightenment, and peace of heart. And to take the other man, whether it's from your tribe or not, as a human being. Because look, we're all breathing the same breath. This air we are breathing makes us more united than anything else from where we come. The Bible not say in the beginning God created man out of the dust of the earth and breathed the breath of him into him, and then man became a living soul. And at death, what happened? The breath also lives. The soul within us of God is more important to unite us than the tribes from which we have come. Let us practice. Jesus has told us in his holy book, Muhammad has told us, may peace be unto him in the Quran.
We all go to churches and go to mosques, but we don't practice. Put it into practice, and we can change Nigeria. The next question. I think that's the last one. That's last one, yeah? Oh, last. Okay, after you, the last one. Okay.
Madam, thank you for the lecture. It was so peaceful.
Let's matter.
Yes, sir.
I know.
Well, on our behalf, I'd like to show you that we have been so peaceful. And it has proven that we have accommodated you peacefully too. Because, at the same time, beg for your forgiveness that we have so followed you blindly. Because you made us the loved ones, and you were calling it right, and we never said anything about it. We should have actually told you so before your lecture. We are surveyors. We used to be called land surveyors.
I was doing that at the end. You are teaching the country. This man. It was when I was to hand over the flag to her, I was to say, you, this man.
So forgive us that we didn't tell you earlier. And even after your lecture, we kept talking and talking. We didn't remember. Thank you.
This man, those are one of the members of council that have always asked questions. Okay, the last person there, please. Last.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. I also join hands with others to thank our guest speaker. And I have this to say. Under the peace process, my name is Shidrak Adelayo Adelakom. Sorry. Under the peace process, we want to seriously appreciate our president because in the past 2 years plus now, the Nigerian State of Surveillance have witnessed a very serious peace in this institution, where we don't even think we will be able to reach. We've gone far there. So we want to appreciate the peace-loving president that we have and those other presidents in the House. Under the tolerance map, in Nigeria, sometimes ago, if you are in your cassava farm, you want to urinate, you want to look at your side, left, right, the front, and your back, so that nobody says, why are you urinating in your cassava farm? But today, even in our public places, things have changed. When you are driving, you will hear people shouting at you, leave the road, I want to go. They no longer tolerate the other person in their front. Or even those coming behind will be handling. Now, in public places, we now see that people defecate anyhow, everywhere. Must we continue to tolerate that man?
I laughed because just yesterday my colleague and I were driving. We came into Minna together, from Minna together, and as we reached close to a traffic stop, there was this beautiful flower bush in the middle, on the median, and this guy just started peeing on the flower, and she was exclaiming like, what is wrong with our people? What can't you see the flower? Do you think you can water the flower with urine? And literally that is the reality. I think we've become more uncivilized. We've lost a lot of our dignity. You find it's a dying value which needs to be reinstilled in the fiber of society from every level, unfortunately. But we have to walk the talk. We can't be preaching it if we do it. I see big, big Jeeps and Escalades and Mercedes parked on the side of the road, and people are peeing literally as people are driving past with no sense of decorum. So I think it's a reflection of where we have reached and how low we have gotten. But I believe, just like other societies that have risen from the ashes and have become almost first world countries today, that we have the ability, if we choose to take responsibility and model the right thing and stop and say this isn't right. It is more of the Edmund Burke quote, don't tolerate it. You will see this sign by walls where don't pee or don't urinate here. That's where they will urinate. But nobody calls people to order. Nobody holds them accountable. And I think if we do hold people accountable and speak up and model the right behavior. We run a school, a high school in Minna. We have one in Abuja as well. But I notice over years, the students that have been with us for about 3 to 4 years start behaving like we do. They start to model, actually. They see what we are modeling and they start to copy how we talk. You cannot walk past any adult without greeting because we greet them first. And over time we see that the culture changes. They come without that. I know on day of resumption for new students, they just come, they drop their box, you check and you say go in. No manners to even greet, and you get worried that how did they raise you at home? But after 6 years in our school, our students stand out because we walk the talk. We don't just preach, but we model what we want them to see, which is what every parent is meant to do. Our children don't learn from what we tell them. They copy what we do. And I think if we as a nation, starting individually, do the right thing and make sure the person next to you does the right thing, we'll probably see a wave that will hopefully bring us back to the glory of the good old days. May God help us all.
Very specific. So our duty is done now. Can get back to you. Okay, now. I have the great honor and pleasure to hand over this flag to you, our guest lecturer for the 38th Jubilee Memorial Lecture, Hajiya Maryam, Lemu. It has been a very wonderful and stimulating lecture. We appreciate your presence, and we wish that you would stay this in your office to show the beginning of a continuous relationship with the Nigerian institution of surveillance. Thank you for coming, and we wish you well. And in addition to that, we have the towel, the pen holder, and what have you. Thank you very much. Okay, I can't take hands because I'm forgiven.